He laughed at me at my daughter's funeral, then learned about the $75 legacy. The rain fell softly that morning, the kind that soaks into your bones without ever announcing itself. Grey clouds hung low over the cemetery, pressing down on everyone gathered as though the sky itself was mourning. I stood beside my daughter's coffin, my hands trembling, my heart shattered beyond repair. Emily was gone. My only child, my pride, my world. She was just 42. People often say funerals blur together, but I remember every detail of that day with painful clarity. The smell of wet grass, the muffled sobs behind me, the hollow ache in my chest that made it hard to breathe. And then there was Daniel, my son-in-law. He stood a little apart from the others, dressed impeccably in a black suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. His posture was relaxed, almost bored. He didn't look like a grieving husband. He looked like a man waiting for paperwork to clear. When the priest finished speaking and the coffin was lowered into the ground, I finally allowed myself to cry openly. My knees weakened, and I reached for the edge of the grave to steady myself. That was when I heard it. A short, sharp laugh. At first I thought grief had made me imagine it, but when I turned my head slightly, I saw Daniel covering his mouth, his eyes glittering with amusement. He leaned toward one of his friends and whispered something. They both smirked. Then Daniel looked straight at me. Our eyes met. And he smiled. Not a sad smile, not a polite one, it was smug, cruel, victorious. As the guests began to drift away, offering me quiet condolences, Daniel finally approached. He placed a hand on my shoulder, squeezing just a little too hard. "Well," he said softly, so only I could hear, "this chapter's finally closed, isn't it?" I stared at him, too stunned to respond. "Don't worry," he continued, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. "I'll make sure Emily's affairs are handled properly. You won't have to trouble yourself." He glanced down at my worn coat, my scuffed shoes, and added with a chuckle, "Why don't you go home and rest? These things can be overwhelming." Then he walked away, whistling under his breath. That was the moment I realized something terrible. Daniel wasn't grieving. He was celebrating. A marriage built on control. Emily had met Daniel nearly 12 years earlier. He was charming, confident, successful, or so it seemed. He worked in finance, spoke eloquently, and knew exactly how to impress. I had my doubts from the beginning. He talked at people, not with them. He always needed to be the smartest man in the room. And while he adored Emily in public, in private he often corrected her, dismissed her ideas, and subtly undermined her confidence. But Emily loved him. "She's an adult," people told me when I expressed concern. "Let her live her life." So I did. What misconceptions they all had. What Daniel never understood, what no one truly understood, was that Emily wasn't just my daughter, she was my business partner. Years earlier, when her mother passed away, Emily and I built something together from almost nothing, a small logistics consultancy that focused on ethical supply chains. Emily had vision, I had experience. Over time, the business grew, quietly, steadily, and very profitably. We never flaunted it. Emily hated attention. She preferred working behind the scenes, investing wisely, reinvesting profits, and letting results speak for themselves. By the time Daniel entered her life, Emily was already a multi-millionaire. But Daniel never knew just how much. She kept her finances separate. She insisted on a prenuptial agreement. Daniel laughed it off at the time, convinced that whatever she had, he could manage better. I remember once asking Emily if she trusted him. She hesitated. "I love him," she said carefully, "but I trust you." The hidden truth. What Daniel never realized was that Emily was ill. Not at first. The diagnosis came quietly, too quietly. A rare condition, aggressive and unforgiving. By the time symptoms appeared, it was already advanced. Emily didn't panic. She planned. Over the final 2 years of her life, she put everything in order. Every asset, every account, every legal document. She met with lawyers, trustees, and financial advisors, none of whom Daniel was invited to. I was there. She made me promise not to tell him. "He doesn't need to know yet," she said. "He'll only see it as money." Those words still haunt me. Emily's estate, when fully valued, was worth $75 million. Not tied up in flashy property or obvious investments. It was diversified, protected, and carefully structured through trusts and holding companies. And Daniel was entitled to almost none of it. The will raiding. A week after the funeral, Daniel summoned me to the law firm handling Emily's estate. He arrived late, sunglasses on, confidence radiating from every step. He barely acknowledged me as he sat down opposite the solicitor. "Let's get this over with," he said. "I've got meetings." The solicitor cleared his throat. "Mr. Daniel Carter, as executor, you are here to hear the contents of Mrs. Emily Carter's final will and testament." Daniel nodded, smirking. I said nothing. The solicitor began. Emily's personal effects were distributed to friends, charities, and a few distant relatives. Modest sums, thoughtful gestures. Daniel grew impatient. "And the main estate," he interrupted. "The investments, the companies." The solicitor adjusted his glasses. "The majority of Mrs. Carter's assets are held within the Emily Harper Trust, which became active upon her death." Daniel frowned. "What trust?" The solicitor continued calmly. "The trust is irrevocable. Its beneficiaries are listed as..." He paused and looked at me. "Mr. Thomas Harper. It's my name." Daniel laughed. "That's a joke," he said. "You've made a mistake." The solicitor shook his head. "No, Mr. Carter. Mr. Harper is the primary beneficiary and trustee." The room went very still. "And what about me?" Daniel demanded. The solicitor turned a page. "Mr. Carter has been left a one-time settlement of $500,000, conditional upon no contest of the will." Daniel went pale. "That's it," he whispered. "There is also a clause," the solicitor added, stating that any attempt to challenge the estate will result in forfeiture of this settlement. Daniel stood abruptly, knocking his chair over. "This is fraud," he snapped. "She wouldn't do this without being manipulated." I finally spoke. "She did it because she knew you." He stared at me, rage flooding his face. "You think you've won," he hissed. I met his gaze steadily. "No," I said, "Emily did." The fall. Daniel did try to fight it. Quietly at first, then desperately. But Emily had been thorough. Every document was airtight. Every decision supported by medical evaluations proving sound mind. Every asset protected. Within months, Daniel's world began to unravel. The lifestyle he maintained was built on the assumption that Emily's fortune would sustain it. Without access to her wealth, debts surfaced, investments collapsed, friends disappeared. The house he lived in, Emily's house, belonged to the trust. He was given 90 days to vacate. The day he came to collect his remaining belongings, I was there. He looked older, smaller, the confidence gone. "She planned this," he said bitterly. "Yes," I replied, "she did." He hesitated. Did she ever regret it, leaving me so little? I thought of Emily's final days, her calm resolve, her clarity. "No," I said, "she regretted trusting you." He left without another word. Emily's legacy. I didn't keep the money for myself. Emily wouldn't have wanted that. Through the trust, I funded scholarships in her name. I expanded the ethical initiatives we'd started together. I supported medical research into the illness that took her life. Every decision was guided by her notes, her values, her voice. Sometimes, late at night, I think back to that moment at the funeral. Daniel's laugh. His sneer. The certainty that he had already won. He never understood that true wealth isn't about what you take from someone. It's about what they choose to leave behind. And Emily left behind more than $75 million. She left truth. She left justice. She left a legacy that no sneer, no laugh, no cruelty could ever erase. If you want, I can rewrite this more emotional or more aggressive. Adapt it exactly for YouTube narration. Create a thumbnail title plus description. Or change the main character name to Harold for your channel.